All right. Greetings. Greetings. Welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Awakening. And we're going to continue our series right now on the universal laws, the 13 laws of this universe. And just a quick rundown. These 13 laws are universal because they apply to anyone at any time and any place. They are defined through universal truth, which we'll go over. And each of these laws, the 12 universal laws, are essentially different ways of defining complete law, the 13th law. And they all kind of correlate and are related to each other. But all of these 13 universal laws complement each other, and they're just different ways of describing the same thing. And so today we're going to talk about the universal law of attraction. And the universal law of attraction is described as like attracts like. And so we'll kind of go over that, and what way we'll format this is first begin with the universality of the universal laws. So describing how they are universal. So I'll be pulling from 4 different holy scriptures, ancient texts from 4 different cultures from around the world for some of the most popular holy scriptures, and to kind of show the context of the universality of the universal law. And what's going on, Malachi? See you over there. And so then we will go, after displaying the universality of the universal law of attraction, then we will go into the metaphysics behind it, because that's why I love metaphysics, because it's a science. And so we can understand the science of how this law is working, because through better understanding how it's working, then we will be in better position to place ourselves in we'll have a better opportunity to place ourselves in a better position to harmonize with that universal law, the universal law of attraction. So universal law of attraction is one that I don't really talk about too much, just because there's a lot of information out there on the universal law of attraction, and a lot of people you have access to a lot of information on it. And so I mostly like to focus on the other universal laws, just to kind of create a little balance and a little context, and through understanding those, people can better understand the universal law of attraction. But today, this is what we're focusing on, is the universal law of attraction, like attracts like, and we're going to go deeper into that. So first of all, the 4 holy scriptures that we'll be discussing to deliver the context of the universality of it is, one, the Dhammapada. And so if you've already been watching the previous weeks of the universal laws, then you're familiar with it, but a brief rundown. The Dhammapada is essentially the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha verbally taught, whenever he came to a new kingdom, the king or the wealthiest man in the kingdom would invite him to his house, and he'd invite all of his rich friends, and he would teach them. And he would teach them all about the mind and the self, and how to realize the self, how to become aware. And so these are his teachings. They were given verbally to his disciples, and then eventually, 200, 300, 400 years later, his disciples were like, maybe we should write this down so that we don't forget it. And so then that's how we have the Dhammapada. And the second text that we'll pull from is the Bhagavad Gita. And we'll get into that when we get to that one, just that way, in case anybody comes in there, they aren't confused and missed that part. But the Dhammapada has a couple verses, 3 different verses I picked out, describing the universal law of attraction. And so the first is verse 121, and then follow it, the subsequent verse is 122. And it says, "Let no one think lightly of evil, and say to himself, sorrow will not come to me. Little by little, a person becomes evil, as a pot is filled by drops of water. In verse 122, let no one think lightly of good, and say to himself, joy will not come to me. Little by little, a person becomes good, as a pot is filled by drops of water." And so I really like these 2 verses in describing the universal law of attraction, because it kind of touches on what I was talking about, the universal law of cause and effect, that your thoughts are cause. And regardless of that thought, the thought is just an image. And so regardless of whether you put it in a positive context or negative context, whatever you're imaging is what will come to you. So notice he says, let no one think lightly of evil, and say to himself, sorrow will not come to me. So the only thing you're imaging is sorrow within your mind. And so then that's what you're going to attract to you is that image of sorrow, because little by little a person becomes evil because they have that thought. Even though you're imaging what you don't want is what you're attracting to you, because that's all you're imaging. So that's the only frequency that you're reverberating into the universe. And so that's what it's going to know to bring to you. Remember the conscious and subconscious minds, the duty of the subconscious mind is to deliver the desires of the conscious mind. And so with that, then you have to understand, how do they communicate? So the conscious mind is telling the subconscious mind what it wants, and the subconscious mind's duty is to fulfill those desires. And so how is the subconscious mind telling the subconscious mind that? They communicate through images. That's why the universal language of our minds is images. It's a language of images. And so the conscious mind, whatever images your thoughts are creating, whatever images you're holding in your mind when you're thinking, those are the things that you're telling the subconscious mind, this is what I want you to create. So if you're only imaging, sorrow will not come to me, or joy will not come to me, those are the images you're creating. So that is what the subconscious mind looks and says, oh, okay, then little by little, you will have that delivered to you. And so, we'll touch more on that when we get into the metaphysics behind it. But I really like that verse because it really connects with helping us understand how, even though we might say, even though we might be thinking, this is what I do want, and so we say, I don't want this, I want to be to work on time, so I don't want to be late. But all we're imaging is being late. So then that's all the subconscious mind knows to produce. Then all of a sudden we wonder why there was a wreck 20 minutes before we left out the house. Or we wonder why we caught every single light on the way over there. Or we wonder why we stopped at Starbucks and spilled our coffee on our shirt and had to turn around and go back home. I just really like it because it portrays that context a little bit more than some of the others that more so talk about, if you image this, then this is what will be produced. That really touches on, even if you're imaging what you don't want, then that is what you're going to bring to you. Kind of helps you to realize, be sure to positive thinking, be sure to put your attention on what you do want. What you put your attention on grows. We'll touch on that also. But the Dhammapada also speaks on, in just 10 verses later, 11 verses later, in verse 133, speak quietly to everyone, and they too will be gentle in their speech. Harsh words hurt and come back to the speaker. So also what you're projecting out, so the first one was more so talking about internally, and this one is more so talking about externally. Like the Bible has the golden rule of, treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself, or treat thy brother as you treat yourself. And it's essentially, this is saying, whatever you give out is what you're going to receive back. So if you're always going around being nasty and rude to people, then it's no surprise that you're going to find people are nasty and rude to you, which is only going to perpetuate the rudeness and nastiness that you then project back to them. And so in the opposite, the more gentle and peaceful and loving and kind you are to others, then the more that you will see that is also returned back to you. All of a sudden, if you are a nasty, person, I used to be hot-headed, and, I'm a funny guy. A lot of people think I'm a funny guy. I'm always cracking jokes, but, my humor has really evolved. I used to, because growing up in the streets, we would just roast anybody, our friends, anybody walking around, just crack jokes on them. The harshest thing you can think of, everybody else would be laughing. They wouldn't be laughing, but everybody else would be laughing. And that's how I would use my humor, growing up. But I elevated that. And so the more that I made a conscious choice to have my output of being funny be of a higher vibration and more higher minded and more uplifting, then the more that I've seen that around me, different people that were in my life that were also like that aren't really around anymore. I don't really even attract other people that are really like that, that you joke around like that in order to kind of, find humor off of someone else's pain, so the more that you also elevate what you're giving out to others through your words and emotions and energy, then the more you'll see that come into your life, and the more you'll see that other people who are still the way you were will fade away. Like attracts like, so as you change that vibration, then what you receive from the universe, the vibration will be different and match what you've created within yourself. And so then what that brings us to the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita, like I said, if you've seen the other videos and that I touched on, then you'll understand. But the real quick rundown, the Bhagavad Gita essentially is from the Hindu culture. It's from the Mahabharata. It's a poem from Mahabharata. And it's about this young prince who has to fight his other family members for the kingdom because they're going to destroy the kingdom, essentially. You know, they're familiar to him, so he doesn't really want to fight him. And Lord Krishna, who is like God incarnate in a physical body, kind of like Jesus is depicted in the Bible, he's having a conversation with him. He's telling him, no, you have to pick up your bow and fight these people, because this is talking about the inner struggle within ourselves. The Kurus, which is the bad, cousins and things of Arjuna, the Pandu prince, the Kurus who he's having to fight represent the negative and unproductive aspects within ourselves. The parts of ourselves that are lazy, or we talk down about ourselves or other people, or the greedy parts of ourselves, the hateful, spiteful, judgmental parts of ourselves. That's what they represent. And if those parts of ourselves take over who we are and rule, then it'll be bad for us, the kingdom. And Arjuna represents us. The conscious mind seeking awareness, and Lord Krishna represents our real self, our highest self. And so he's asking these questions of the highest self, like what should I do? And I'm familiar with these. I grew up being like this. This is part of me. I don't really want to destroy it. And it's like, no, in order to seek this, in order to rule the kingdom, in order to rule the self, master the body, master the soul, master the spirit, then you must strike off and kill and transform these parts of yourself, these unproductive parts of yourself that aren't doing anything for you. They aren't producing anything for you. And so that's what the Bhagavad Gita is about. And so in chapter 9, it's just a long conversation, because then it grows into more further things, more questions about life, and questions about like right thinking, right eating, right decisions, right actions, and different things like that. And it's a give and take conversation. So in chapter 9, verse 30 through 31, it says, and this is Lord Krishna, the real self, talking to our conscious self, the Arjuna. Even sinners become holy when they take refuge in me alone. Quickly their souls conform to Dharma, and they attain to boundless peace. Never forget this, Arjuna. No one who is devoted to me will ever come to harm. So essentially that's, like I said, Lord Krishna is talking about the real self. So if we put our attention on our real self, our highest selves within, and we put our attention on the goals and desires of that part of ourselves, then even the parts of us that's, like the sinners, which is pretty much just making choices, even though we know that those aren't the right choices to make. That's essentially all a sin is not necessarily making a mistake, but knowing that you shouldn't have done it and still did it. It's not anything big, or doesn't have to be. It can be big, can be little, but essentially that's what it means in Holy Scriptures when they talk about sinning. So even when you're making mistakes that you shouldn't make, it's okay, because the moment that you put your attention on the real self and the goals and desires of your highest self, then you automatically will be moving in that direction. Like it talks about the Dharma, and Dharma and karma are two halves to the whole of your soul's purpose. Karma is what you have to receive, and Dharma is what you have to give. Karma is, that's a whole nother video I'll get on and touch on, but briefly, karma is essentially the understandings that you have to learn from the life lessons that you have to learn from your life experiences, in order to build more understandings in understanding yourself, understanding creation, understanding the universe, the creator, the most high. And then the Dharma is because those understandings you'll have for the rest of this lifetime and on into future lifetimes. And your Dharma is the culmination of the understandings that you have already built within this lifetime and previous lifetimes, that you understand in a subconscious deep level, that you have to give and share with other people just by being yourself. Then other people can receive and learn from this just by being yourself. Like, I'm sure you can look at different people within your life, or different people that and they just exude and naturally understand something about life that you wish to emulate, or that you wish to learn from them. A lot of the relationships and friendships and things and reasons why we choose the family to incarnate into and things, a lot of times is because of the Dharma that they hold, and we want to be around them and build a relationship with them because we want to build an understanding of what they already understand, and vice versa. So the Dharma is kind of it's like your duty, your soul's duty in this life is to share and give to other people in this way. And so it talks about by putting your attention on the real self, the highest self, then the Dharma will naturally come out. And it will naturally, you'll be giving to other people in what you already have spent lifetimes to understand. And other people can now just, understand those, have an opportunity to understand it just by being around you and having you in their life. And so that's just talking about like attracts like. If I put my attention on as within, so without, if I put my attention on the highest self, then the values and decisions and thoughts of my highest self will come out into my physical experience. And so the next Holy Scripture, because like I said, this first part we're talking about the universality of the law of attraction. So we're just talking about how it is universal, and it's within all these different ancient texts and scriptures and cultures. And so the next one we're going to talk about is one that's probably most familiar in the United States, and that's historically. It's probably changing more as the day goes by, but Christianity and the Bible, essentially. And out of the Bible, the Bible can be interpreted through the universal law of the mind, or universal language of the mind, just like every other Holy Scripture. And the creation story is essentially talking about the creation of the soul and spirit and physical body, and how we incarnate into the physical body, and the reasons behind that. The man, the woman, the conscious, the subconscious, two halves to the whole. The firmament is the division between the superconscious mind, subconscious mind, and conscious mind. And I'll plan on doing another video to break that down also. But the Book of Revelation, also the seven churches, which are the seven candlesticks, represent the seven chakras, and the seven seals, are the seven doorways into the seven levels of mind and things like that. So, which I plan on doing another video, or maybe writing an article or something about that one. I'm doing a series on it. But anyways, from the Bible, like I said, just like with Lord Krishna, Jesus Christ in the Bible represents that highest self, or real self. So when you hear, Krishna speaking in the Bhagavad Gita, is essentially the words from the real self, the words from our highest self. When you hear Jesus speaking from the Bible, it's essentially the vibration, the Christ consciousness, the Buddha consciousness, that part of superconscious mind that comes from the real self, the highest self. So in the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 29, it says, "For unto everyone that has more will be given. For unto everyone that has more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him that has little, it will be taken away what little he has." And so this is really essentially touching on I'm going to talk about later on about how to harmonize with the universal law of attraction, which is gratitude. To him who has, more shall be given. To him who has not, more shall be taken away. So it's also touching on with the Dhammapada, what he talks about there of even if this is what you're not imaging, or even if you're imaging what you don't want, or if you're thinking what you don't want, then that's still what you're going to bring to you. So gratitude is putting your attention on what you already have. And, I'm grateful for, the people that are here. I'm thinking about the, 7, 10, 15 people that are here watching this on the different forms of media, not thinking about the thousands and millions that could benefit from it that aren't watching it. I'm not worried about them, because if I was, then I wouldn't have anything to give to you that is here watching. And so I put my attention on that, and I'm grateful for that. And by doing that, then it will grow. But if I put my attention on the people who aren't here, then it won't grow. And it's very easy in this experience to kind of convey, because you as the listener and receiver of this information and knowledge are able to easily understand how, if I just started talking about, hey, bring more people in here, do that, start talking about something about promoting anything, then you would be like, well, this has no value for me, I'm out of here. And then I'd have nobody. And so if I put my attention on what I didn't have, it would quickly diminish and vanish. But if I put my attention on what I do have, and I continue to give and then it will grow. And just like anything in your life, you know, if you put your attention on the money that you do have and you're grateful for that, you know, then that will grow. If you put your attention on the money you don't have, then all of a sudden you're going to realize, man, I'm back to living check to check. And so, you know, same thing with your relationships. You know, if you focus on the good qualities of the relationship, then it will grow and thrive. If you focus on, you know, what's missing in your relationship, then you'll just have more, you'll just find out that more things are missing, because that's what you're focusing on. You know, what you put your attention on grows. It's essentially the universal truth describing this this holy scripture here, this verse. But like I said, we'll get into the metaphysics behind it, the universal law of attraction, and then how to harmonize with that. But this is another great scripture that helps depict that universal law. And so the last one is the Tao Te Ching, and the Tao Te Ching is the writings of, there are different verses from the Lao Tzu, and Lao Tzu was another enlightened master who lived on the earth and wrote these down. And the Tao is essentially like the Metunet, or Mother Nature. It is the essence of all things, the essence of creation, you know, the omniscience, the omnipresence, the energy, the energetic essence of within everything, within you, within the water, within the earth, within the space, within everything. And so it says in verse 8, the best way to live is to be like water, for water benefits all things without competing or going against anything, flowing in places others reject and avoid. This is why water is like the Tao. Dwell close to the earth, still the mind, thoughts, and go deep. Give with kindness, speak truth and honesty, govern peacefully, be responsible. Be responsible when serving others. Sorry, I couldn't read my own handwriting. Be responsible when serving others. When causing movement, be timely. Such a one does not go against the nature of things. Therefore, things do not go against such a one. And so this is the perfect Holy Scripture to finish with, because, you know, nature will do half, but we have to do the rest. And that's kind of what I was going to get into later. You know, we really have to do the work. And so if you want nature to be on your side, then you have to do the work. You have to create these things, you know. And so, like I said, be like water. Water is patient. Water doesn't, you know, try to, you know, beat things down. It's just patient. And, you know, maybe water does overcome something like a barrier of some kind, but it's because it was patient and allowed more of the water to coalesce until the strength of it overtook the strength of the barrier or barricade or whatever it was it broke through. Or if you look at a winding river, you know, that river wasn't always winding so wide. It just, through time, the river slowly winded further and further. You know, if you go and look at river rocks are really, if you're out of the water, are real smooth. They weren't always real smooth. They were real jagged, just like the rocks you had to climb down to to get to that river. You know, but it became smooth because over time the water patiently, you know, made its impression. And so it's just like with the first verse from the Dhammapada, drip by drip, drop by drop, this will happen. So this patience. So if you want to utilize the law of attraction, which is working at all times, to change things within your life, you know, you have to be patient and work with it drop by drop. And just like water, just be patient and know that over time you will erode away the unproductive thoughts or the mental beliefs or the personal beliefs or imagined limitations that are holding you back from achieving your desires. But by you know, changing your vibration, changing your frequency, changing the thoughts that you have, slowly it will erode that away and smooth them over to where now it will make room for something new for you in your life. And so, you know, that's the law of attraction, like attracts like. And so that kind of ties us in, or brings us into the metaphysics behind it. You know, the metaphysics behind it is essentially that like attracts like means that, you know, as within, so without, as above, so below, with whatever your frequency is, because our whole experience in this physical life is mostly geared around sight and sound. Those are our most two main senses. We have 5 senses. And if somebody said you had to get rid of 3, I guarantee 96% of the people you ask will have sight and sound be the 2 main senses that they want to remain, because that's the main way that we interpret what we're experiencing. And both sight and sound are both frequency, and they both are interpretations of the same frequency. Sound waves are a frequency. UV rays and X-rays and all these are different frequencies. UV rays, infrared, X-rays, they're frequencies above and below the frequency that we can see with the visible eyes. But it's all about frequency, which is a vibration. UV rays are vibrating faster than the color that we can see. X-rays and things vibrate slower than the color spectrum that we can see. The different audio waves, sound waves, there's some that vibrate faster, a higher pitch, or some that vibrate slower, a lower pitch. And so it's all about frequency. And so each of us resonate within a certain scale of frequency depending on our consciousness, because our thoughts create our reality. The thoughts that you think have a frequency, but it's of a much higher vibration because it's in a higher level of mind. And as it comes down to the physical, then it slows down as it begins to manifest. And so our emotions are slower than, the frequency of our emotions are slower than the thoughts, but they're faster than the physical reality. And so essentially, our thoughts are creating our emotions, and our emotions are influencing our lives. And our thoughts and emotions will determine the frequency and the vibe. That's why people say, oh, I like their vibe, or I don't like their vibe. This is short for vibration, because we resonate, we vibrate. And so whatever we're vibrating at is what we're going to then attract to us. This vibration is going to along this vibration, then they will find their way to each other if they're close. And so if you're wanting to change something that you're experiencing outside in your physical life or within yourself, then you're going to have to understand first, because you're going to have to change your frequency. So first, what you have to do in order to do that, you have to understand what is your vibration currently, what is your current frequency, what is your current vibe, and what is the vibration of what you're wanting to attain or receive or gain or cultivate within you. And then you have to understand and learn how to change your vibration to match that vibration. So what is the level of consciousness of that thing that I want, abundance or friendship or maturity or patience, prosperity, whatever it is, you have to learn how to change that frequency. And so if our thoughts are what create that frequency, then we have to learn how to adjust our thinking in order to harmonize with that. Because like I said, nature will only do half. We have to do the work. If you want to understand how to harmonize with the universal law of attraction, listen to this video might help you and might put you more closer to that, but you're still going to have to do it. Just listen to the video isn't doing anything. Reading books isn't going to do anything. Listen to other people talk about it isn't going to do anything. Personal experience is what's going to do it. And so you're going to have to create a personal experience for yourself. And so you have to understand how to do that. And all of you know how to create personal experiences. You've created one just now by watching this video. So go and create. You have to do the work. You have to, if you want to create a shift in your life, then you have to do just that and create it. It's not going to happen for you. You're not going to, even winning the lottery, you still have to go and buy a ticket. You're not just going to find a winning lottery ticket on the ground. You have to create things in your life. So if you want something different, you have to create it. If you want enlightenment, you have to create it within your life. You have to create the personal experiences to get to that. Now, you can maybe read in a book somewhere that might, holy scripture, or from a guru, or listen to a guru, or find more information. It's the age of information, so it's all over the internet. Everybody has a cell phone nowadays, so you have all the information at your fingertips. But that information will really only be able to guide you in understanding how to create that experience. You're still going to have to create the experience and do the work. So that's the main thing I want everyone to take away from this, is to do the work, put in work. And so that kind of brings me around to you know, the one of the keys to understanding how to harmonize with it, and it's through the use of your willpower. You know, you're going to have to use your willpower to get over these things that are limiting and limiting you from attaining the desires that you want. And the bigger the desire, then, you know, because all desires are the same size, but if it's a bigger desire or a smaller desire, it just means it's your belief of how far away it is. You know, it's of how difficult it will be to get that. It's your limiting belief of how far away it is. So that is the hard work, is getting beyond that belief and breaking that down. And so you're going to have to use a lot of willpower the bigger the limitation is. And so willpower, as I've said before, and if you're familiar with my channel, you've heard it before, that the thing that willpower essentially is making conscious choices and following through on those decisions and on those choices that you've made and following through with it. And you know, when you're breaking down your willpower is when you make a conscious choice and you go against it. You know, like today I was driving home and I said, all right, well, as soon as I get home, I'm going to go to the gym and run a mile. And, you know, if I got home and then sat down, you know, and got my work clothes off and then was like, you know, I just want to kind of relax, then that would be breaking down my willpower, because I've made a conscious choice, but then I went against it. But instead, you know, I said something to my fiance and she went with me, and we went and, you know, she was on the elliptical, did a mile. I went and ran a mile. And, you know, just some walking in between. I don't mind, being honest. You know, I'm still getting back into shape of exercising every day. But anyways, you know, I made a conscious choice and I followed through with it. One of the biggest ways that people, especially in our society, break down their willpower is with their alarm clock. Starting out the day, most people start out the day, I'm guilty of it too, I do it a lot, and start out the day breaking down their willpower before they even get out of bed. That's because you've made a conscious choice to get up at 6 o'clock, but you don't get up till 6:40 because you hit the snooze alarm, you know, 3-4 different times. The alarm went off at 6 o'clock. I made a conscious choice to get up at 6 o'clock. The alarm went off at 6 o'clock. I hit snooze, and I know it's going to go back off 10 minutes. And then 10 minutes later, snooze. Or a lot of times, a lot of people don't even have alarm clocks anymore. Another thing being replaced, they have a cell phone. And so that's even worse, because like the snooze, I can maybe explain it off like, well, I set it for 6 and it just kept on going off. But when you have it on your phone, you sit there and set, all right, 6 o'clock, 6:10, 6:20, and then I really need to get up if it's 6:30, 6:35, 6:37, 6:30, you know, and putting a lot of alarms on you. So you're already planning on breaking down your will before you even go to sleep. And so that's one way that you can really begin the day strengthening your willpower, is by whatever you set your alarm clock to, make a conscious choice that night. I will get up as soon as it goes off. It goes off, don't hit the snooze, turn it off, and then get up and start your day. And you've already started your day strengthening your willpower, made a conscious choice, and you followed through with it. And on piggybacking on that with understanding willpower and strengthening willpower, your willpower is strengthened and fueled by your desire. And the stronger your desire, then the easier it is to follow through with it. Like, you know, most of the time, I doubt anybody has that hard time of hitting the snooze 7-8 times when they have something they want to get up and go do. You know, on the weekends, you don't really have that problem. Yeah, you probably don't even set an alarm, because you know if you have something to do, you're going to get up and go. You know, but it's like, it's work. It's, you know, I don't have a strong desire to go to work today. I mean, I do. I know I have to, but it's not something I like really desire to do. It's not enjoyable like that. You know, for most people, some people have a beautiful life and love what they do for work. I mean, I enjoy what I do, but I don't have like a passion for it. It pays the bills and it pays good money. It allows me more free time to do other things that I do love. But, you know, we don't have really the strong desire, so that's why we keep hitting the snooze. You know, that's a good example that I'll keep using. And so the more you can strengthen your desire, then the stronger your willpower will be, and the easier it'll be to wield your willpower around to bust through these different limitations and things holding you back, and mental obstacles keeping you from getting what you desire and what you want in life. And so, you know, but then how do you strengthen your desire? If my desire isn't that strong, then how do I strengthen that? What fuels that? If my desire is going to determine how strong my willpower is, then what determines how strong my desire is? And that is your purpose. your purpose is what going to fuel your desire. What eventually makes me get out of bed is because I understand that when I do go to work, I'm going to make money, and I need money to do the other things that I want to do in life. Okay, so that's why I'm going to get up. That's strengthened my desire enough. If I don't get up now, I'm going to be late, and that's not going to look good, and it's not going to put me in a good position to make more money in the future at this job. So that's a much stronger desire. I now know how I'm going to personally benefit from that, because that's all purpose is how you personally benefit. And so then you understand your purpose and bring that to the forefront of your mind, then it will strengthen your desire, which will strengthen your willpower, which will allow you to break through the different limitations, mental limitations that are keeping you from what you desire. So that is a very huge key, I think, that is missing with a lot of people with like the law of attraction, because a lot of people talk about, oh, you just have to, image it in your mind, put it on a vision board, say this affirmation 3 times a day. Like, I mean, it's going to take a lot more than that. You're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to do a lot of work. Like the law of sacrifice is a universal law. It's one where anytime somebody comes to me talking about the universal law of attraction, I usually always end up bringing it around to the universal law of sacrifice, because that's probably a very key to that. Like if you want to attain what you want, the main thing you're going to have to sacrifice is comfort. For most people, that's the main thing you're going to have to sacrifice that you're not currently sacrificing, is comfort, being comfortable, being comfortable not only with, not doing anything, but being comfortable with where you're at, because it's familiar, because you know what to expect. It's very easy to stay where you're at because you're comfortable, because there's no surprises. I know kind of with the way things are going, even though it's not that great and I want something different, I know what to expect with it. It's not going to throw me off course, but be uncomfortable. Law of sacrifice your comfort, sacrifice, your control over what's going on in your life, so that you can attain this other thing, because right now you're sacrificing what you want for that comfort or for that control, so it's really good to understand the different universal laws in order to understand the universal law of attraction, how to harmonize with that. And so, like I said, you want to understand what is it that I do desire. And what I would suggest in learning how to harmonize with the universal law of attraction is to write down what you desire. Write down a list of 50, 60, 70 things. I mean, it doesn't have to be that many, it can be 10, but just write down all the things that you desire. And then look at that list and really essentially break down, okay, what are the things that I desire the most from this? Okay, and then really break down with each of those, take each one at a time, put it on a piece of paper and another piece of paper, and just really write out your conscious thoughts of what it's going to take to attain that. Either whether it's, cultivating patience, or, getting more, $5,000 saved up in your bank account, or 50,000, or maybe it's making 2 new friends, or whatever it is. Just really writing down what it's going to take to attain that, and then really looking at what things you currently are doing in order to make that happen, what things you feasibly can do, and what things you would have to sacrifice in order to make that happen. And then with that sacrifice, what things are you willing to sacrifice, or what things do you not want as much as what you're desiring? Because if it's something you're going to have to sacrifice that's more important to you than what you're desiring, then maybe you should reevaluate what you really desire more. Maybe you need to shift what you desire more. Maybe that's the problem on why you're not attracting this, because ultimately, in order to create that, you're going to have to sacrifice something that you have a greater desire for. So like, yeah, maybe I do want this, but if I'm going to have to sacrifice my comfort, then I really don't want it. So maybe that's the truth and reality of it. But by writing these things down, it will really help you to take all of the little subconscious and unconscious thoughts that you have going on in your mind and bring them out into the physical and empty it out. And by emptying the conscious mind in this way with your desires, then what you're doing is you're making space, and you're creating space within the conscious mind for the subconscious mind, the intuitive part of your mind, the part of the mind that is storing all of these permanent understandings that I was talking about that you have within you, that part of your mind, that wisdom, that eternal wisdom beyond just what you've learned in this lifetime, it will then be able to impart wisdom, that wisdom and knowledge into your conscious mind, and just out of nowhere, you'll receive that because you've created the space. You've made space by taking all that is going on in the conscious mind and physicalizing it onto the paper, and to where you then created the space for that to come in. It's like having a cup that's full. You can't, everybody knows you can't put more into a full cup. So, but if you empty the cup, then you make space to receive. And so, the subconscious mind is very gracious and generous like that. It's not going to push and bully its way through. It's going to be patient and wait for you. Because if you don't build any understandings that you need, or or create these desires in this lifetime, it knows that, well, we can just create another lifetime next time, and maybe you'll get it that time. So it's very patient in that way. So that's one thing, a couple things I suggest to you. That's essentially what I have on the universal law of attraction. I could go on forever talking about different things, but that's kind of where we'll cut it off today on universal law of attraction. I'm not really sure what law we'll get into next week. Maybe the universal law of divine birthright, or the universal law of proper perspective, maybe, or universal law of abundance, universal law of prosperity. I don't know. We'll figure that out this week, or maybe if you guys want to shout out one that you want to hear about, we'll get into that next week. But as always, you can shoot me an email. I'm always willing to interpret people's dreams, or if you have any other questions about universal laws or anything, selfawareness3@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram at The Weekly Awakening for more stuff. We're kind of getting more content out every day, on a daily basis, just something for daily that people can kind of read and be reminded of, little universal truths to help keep yourself aligned within, and keep that attention on the highest self. And so stay tuned. We'll be back next Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern time. And as always, I leave you in peace.